Welcome to our short demonstration video on how to use the API for EasyWriter. We're going to run this demonstration through Postman. You'll see that the information on the right hand side is a CURL request which is being generated by our interaction with the user interface on the left hand side of the screen. To interact with the API, you're going to use a HTTP post. At the top of the screen you can see what the URL endpoint is. For the body of the request, we're going to select a file. I'm going to grab this image here. Then we're going to go over to headers. We're going to secure our request using an API key, which is unique to you. I'm just going to go generate myself a new API key. If you log into the user interface and you don't have the button available to generate a new API key, it means you need to go and buy a license. If you need one, please contact support. Okay, so I'm going to paste my API key in here. You can see how it's updating a CURL on the right hand side of the screen. The rest of the information below are some tags. So ew-prefixes, these are pieces of information or metadata that we want to preserve on the blockchain as tags which can be used for finding the files later on. So for example, if you were using some sort of a chain indexer, you will be able to search for the files using these tags that you're uploading. I would recommend, where possible, always apply the content type of the file that you're originally uploading into the tags. It just makes it easier to interact with later on when you're pulling the information off ARRAffinity, which I'll show you in a moment. Anyway, I'm going to fire off this transaction now. Okay, that ran in real time. That's pretty quick, no speeding up. The response comes back in JSON, and you can see on the screen what was the ID of the transaction. What's the status, who ran the transaction, what's the file size, and a cryptographic hash of the file we uploaded. We can see the tags that have been uploaded to the blockchain and which blockchains have been used to perform the transaction. We use two different types of blockchains. One we class as a DeFi smart contracting blockchain called Concordium. It's fast but has payload limitations, which we'll talk about in a moment. And then we use a storage chain called Arweave, which is used for large file payloads. And you're going to see very quickly now why we use two blockchains. So I'm going to grab the transaction address from Concordium from the file that we've just uploaded. I'm going to paste it into the blockchain explorer. And we can see that the data's there and ready for us. What you'll notice though is if we look at the tags, we've got the author and we've got the version on here, but we don't have the user ID, the hackathon tag, or the content type tag. Why is that? Concordium, like many smart contracting platforms, have got very small payloads. So there's only a certain number of bytes that I can stick on there. But what I can do on Concordium, for example, is I can put the transaction address on where I can go and find this over in Arweave. Okay, so I'm going to grab this transaction address, which if you look at the screen, you can see it's highlighted there. It's the same as the transaction address that was in the JSON file. And when I go over to Arweave, because I'm doing this recording in real time, if I just paste this transaction in here, you'll come up with no results. Why is that? Well, storage type blockchains take a long time to come to what's called consensus. Okay, I'm not going to try and explain consensus in this video because it's a large topic in its own right. But what that means is we're going to have to wait a few minutes for this file to be viewable on Arweave. Okay, I've left it a few minutes now to come back and check for my transaction, and here it is on Arweave. Okay, great. So we can see the metadata of the file that we uploaded. And because this was an image, we can see the thumbnail. Now, it's worth noting, if you didn't supply the content type in the tags earlier on, it wouldn't give you this little preview on the right-hand side because Arweave itself wouldn't know what to do with the file, so it wouldn't be able to generate some kind of a thumbnail. So we can see the evidence that we've uploaded to the blockchain. It's a nice little graphic. And we've got the tags that go with it here on the left-hand side. Just going to quickly mention about finalization, something that you don't need to worry about. When you fire off one of these executions in EasyWriter, just because Arweave hasn't finished finalization and consensus doesn't mean you need to hang around and wait for it. So if I just fire off this request again, You say, okay, go store me some data. It comes back with this information here. You can store that in your ERP system or whatever tool that you want to use. You don't need to worry about how long it takes for these blockchains to finish finalizing the storage and come to consensus. You just need to just go, okay, here's my transaction data. I'm going to store it back in my database. Arivu's worrying about all the rest of it for me. We've made it simple as for you as possible. So that's our short demo introduction video on how to use the API. Thank you very much.